I'm in Shenandoah National Park, and this is Milam Gap. This is mile marker 53. A pretty good size parking area here. There's my little red car. And right over here, next to that trailhead, is the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to get on the Appalachian Trail and head over this way a ways, and then when we get over here about a quarter of a mile or so, I'm going to go off the trail and start looking for an old abandoned road. I found on a 1930s era map, I found a road that looks like it used to go down to Camp Hoover, which is over that way. So I thought I'd see if I could go over there and find that. The elevation here is 3240. Okay, well, I just crossed over the street. There's the signpost for the Appalachian Trail straight ahead. And here on this metal band it says turn left on Mill Prong Trail. So we're going to turn left and follow this. Now this goes down to Camp Hoover, but this is the new way. So I'm going to go down here for a couple tenths of a mile, and then I'm going to start looking off to the right for the old way down, see if we can find it. Four tenths of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 3170, and I'm at my point HS0, waypoint 0, and right here is where you can see the new trail takes off towards the left. See that, and heads down that way and eventually crosses over Mill Prong. Now the old road, according to the map, was over this way more. So I'm going to start looking around for the old road. I'm going to wander into the woods here at about a constant elevation here and see if I can find it. I know it's not over there because that's a great big hill over there. So according to the map, the road wound its way around the hill here at a fairly constant elevation in a clockwise direction. So I'm going to go over here and see if I can find the old road. Half a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 3190. It looks like I found the old road. It's straight ahead here. It's a pretty dim road though. That's where I came from. Had a hard time finding it, but finally I saw what looked, I was a little below it, and I finally saw what looked like the road. It actually does come up on this rise here. There's the rise. And there it is heading the way I'm going to go. I'm going to see if I can follow this all the way down to Camp Hoover, which is about 2 miles. So, but let's see if I can keep following it. .52 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 3,200 feet. I'm at my waypoint 2, and I'm standing in the ditch, so that's good. Now the road makes another right-hand sweep and heads off on a different bearing. So let me dial in my waypoint 3, and I'll see if I can navigate to there. 1 mile into my hike, I'm down to 3170. It's been very difficult following the road. I just crossed over this feeder stream. I'll point it out on the map when I do the map talk. So there's a fold in the mountain here. Over there's where I came from. And there's no real obvious trail over there, but every once in a while you see a little leveled off spot and a little dished out part of a road. So anyway, I've crossed over. Now I got to try and find the rest of the road over here on this side. So let me look around. I've got a few more waypoints here I can use if I have to. 1.1 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 3125. And I'm at my waypoint 4. And now I'm supposed to make a sweeping, this road's supposed to take a sweeping turn around this steeper part of the mountain here, clockwise around this way. So it's about a quarter of a mile from here. I'm having some trouble following the road, but every once in a while I see a little remnant of it, which gets me back on the exact, ditch. That's the way I'm headed. This is the way I came from. That way, down through there. It's starting to snow a little bit. That's a surprise. Wasn't supposed to be any precip today. 0 chance of precip. And it's starting to snow a little bit, so ugh. Let's see, it's not terribly cold. It's about 37 degrees right now. So far so good. If I can get down to one of the main trails, I'll be mission accomplished. See, here's an example right here of when you know you're on the old road. See those rocks, how they're piled up there, and then they're piled up over here on this side. And then if you take a close look, let me get down here a little bit. Maybe you can see that that's dished out there. So every once in a while you find something that lets you know you're still in the right direction. .4 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 3,060 feet. I'm at my waypoint 5, and so we're going to continue on. I got 2 more waypoints to get me down to one of the existing trails, and over this way. And we're going to have to start dropping down quite a bit of elevation. So from here down to the existing trails is going to be steep because that's Fork Mountain, and down here in this valley, way down there, that's where Camp Hoover is. So we've got to go in the opposite direction. We got to go south this way to get down off this mountain, and then we're going to pick up an existing trail, Laurel Prong Trail, and we're going to head down the valley down this way to Camp Hoover. So it's going to still take a while. It's still snowing just a little teeny bit, but the sun's starting to come out, so that's a good sign. This is the way we're headed, and that's where I came from, that way. And there's a big old tree that got blown down many, many moons ago. So let's continue on to the south. 1.8 miles into my hike. I'm down to 2,820 feet. I'm at my waypoint 6. And between waypoint 5 and waypoint 6, I really didn't see a road. That's where I came from. And been hiking more or less at constant elevation. I did drop down a little bit. There's Fork Mountain. And the existing trails are down there in that valley. This is waypoint 6, and now I'm going to head off. That's the way I'm headed, except I'm going to turn left here and head down this way some. When I get down to waypoint 7, I'm hoping to be down to the existing trails, and that is in about 2/10 of a mile. So let's see what happens. .9 miles into my hike, I'm down to 2,725 feet, and I'm almost down to the existing trails. And here's the old road again. I finally found the ditch. Wow! I'm going to mark this just out of curiosity. There's where the ditch comes from, and I was actually cutting across at an angle like this. So this is either a different road or somewhere up there where I couldn't see it. It went from way over there over this way and then down. So I don't know. 1930s map. But anyway, here's the ditch. I'll mark this spot with a waypoint. Two point 2.01 miles into my hike, I'm down to 2,650 feet, and I'm down on the main trail now. This one's called Laurel Prong Trail. That's heading towards Camp Hoover. That's the way we're going. Down there at the very bottom of the abyss is Laurel Prong Creek. That creek runs down that way and meets up with Mill Prong, which is coming down from this direction, and where the two come together, that's where Camp Hoover is. I just came from here, and right before I stepped off onto the main trail, I noticed rocks piled up there on the left. So I'm going to reposition my waypoint 7 by about 60 to 70 feet to this spot. That's where it heads up the side of the hill, but as soon as you get up and go around the bend just a little ways, you pretty much lose it. But that's definitely where it came down. And then this signpost here, it tells you that the Appalachian Trail, this way's 2.3 miles. We're on Laurel Prong Trail, Rapidan Camp, which is Camp Hoover, 0.6 of a mile. And going down that way takes you across Laurel Prong, and that's the Fork Mountain Trail. And if you follow that far enough, you can get all the way up to the top of Fork Mountain up there. There's a historic benchmark up there, by the way. I've got another hiking video on that, so if you're interested in that, I can post a little bit of information about it. It's one of the original East Coast survey points up there at Fork Mountain. So since I was here, I started looking for this survey benchmark that I knew was here from a prior hike. There it is there. I had to uncover it. The reason I knew it was there is because that's the biggest rock along this stretch of the trail. So I figured that's where they put it. Up there's where I did the last video. You can see the concrete marker right there. And we're going to head up that way to Camp Hoover. This trail is the Fork Mountain Trail. Goes down and crosses Laurel Prong, and then you can work your way all the way up to the top of Fork Mountain. But this one is, I can post more information when I get home, but this is it looks like it's stamped TT Station number 3W, and then the date is 1929. Here's a freshly blown down tree that fell across the trail. See all the wood chips laying around? And look, looks fairly healthy in the middle. That was a big boy right there. Look at that guy. Wow. There's the rest of it over there. .5 miles into my hike, I'm down to 2,537 feet. That's where I came from, and I'm at my waypoint number 8. Now, waypoint 8 is where I saw from one of the old maps. Here's the way I'm headed. I'm almost to Camp Hoover down that way. But waypoint 8 is where there was a road, a dotted line shown heading off to the right. And it goes over this way a ways, and then it crosses over the Rapidan River, and then it goes up on that hill a little ways, and that's where the Marine Corps camp was, I believe. And if you look at this road, you can see rocks there kind of lining the right-hand side, and then right here, where I'm standing, waypoint 8, look, no rocks. So I think it went down that way. It's all been washed out over the years. And look at this. Let me just walk down here just for a second. If you're coming from that direction, look at these rocks all piled up here in a kind of a sweeping turn. See that? So I'm pretty sure this is a good waypoint. One of these days I'll come back and try and bushwhack this and see. Oh yeah, and look, this is the old road right there. See how it's dished out? And then up here's the new road. So one of these days I'll come back and bushwhack this over and see if I can find where it crosses the Rapidan, and maybe even over there where the Marine camp used to be. This is just across the current trail from, there's a sign down there that says 5/10 up that way. 5/10 is where the original site was before they actually built the wooden structures. The Marines set up 5/10 up there for the President Hoover and his wife and entourage. 5/10. Whew, out of breath. Okay, well, here's a big fireplace, and I can see what looks like used to be a bit of a roof line about halfway up, and then stone the rest of the way. So sometime or other there might have been a semi-permanent structure there. And then this is what they would be looking at. Down there's like a little terrace I came up on. And Camp Hoover's over that way, down the hill a ways. This is Fork Mountain over there. And right here is an old water pipe. Nice. So, heck, they probably had hot water and showers over here too. .8 miles into my hike. The elevation here is 2,500 feet, and this is Camp Hoover. These were the permanent buildings, what's left. There was a lot more buildings than this, but that one's the Brown House. That was the President and Mrs. Hoover's residence, and they also entertained guests there. Behind there is where Mill Prong and Laurel Prong Creeks come together and form the headwaters of the Rapidan. Over here is the Prime Minister's cabin. This was used to house visiting dignitaries. That little waterfall there is an artificial waterfall. I didn't show it coming in, but up where I came down off the bushwhack part of the hike, upstream there about a half a mile, the Marines went up there and diverted part of Laurel Prong Creek, and to create an artificial stream that comes down this way and then cuts through, and it has a waterfall there. It also used to feed water into this pond here, this artificial pond, and then the pond overflowed right down there and went back down into Laurel Prong Creek. So you have to kind of imagine this was full of water and full of fish and frogs and whatnot, and that was a waterfall. And over there, just a little ways, is a little footbridge to get across over to the Prime Minister's cabin. Up there's Fork Mountain. And then over here was an large outdoor fireplace. People would gather around there, and they would sometimes cook there also. I'll try and get some pictures of that on the way out. Right down there is the headwaters of the Rapidan River. Here's Laurel Prong Creek coming down. And right there is there's Mill Prong Creek. Maybe you can see a little bit of it over there. And they come together right there. And there's the headwaters of the Rapidan River. Here's the other side of the brown house, the porch. There's Mill Prong Creek right there. Little footbridge. I've never been over there, but there's probably some short hiking trails over there. And the trail I'm going back on is a regular trail, established trail, and it basically follows this creek, Mill Prong, all the way up to Skyline Drive. That's the way I'm going back. Here's another shot of Mill Prong Creek. There's the brown house right there. Standing on the bridge. I'm heading out now, back up to my car. The main buildings are down there at the end of the road. This cabin's called the Creel. It's up here a little ways away from the rest of them. This one was used by the president's aides. I took a picture of the info sign. You can read that. Pause the video and read that. It's got electric power too. See that pole right there with the transformer on it? I'm getting ready to cross Mill Prong Creek. Here's the waterfall. Somebody put a log across the creek so you don't have to wade across now. And then that's headed down towards Camp Hoover. .8 miles into my hike, I'm climbing the mountain. I'm up to 2,830 feet. There's where I came from. Down there's Camp Hoover. And here's Mill Prong Creek, which I'm getting ready to cross for the second time. There's the horse trail. It makes a bend here and heads on up this way towards Big Meadows. So if you're riding horses, you turn here and you take this horse trail up to Big Meadows, which is up that way. And then foot traffic continues on. This is the Mill Prong Trail, and it's about a mile from here up to Milam Gap, where my car's parked. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Fletcher 1999, and the purpose of the hike was to look for an old abandoned road that went from Skyline Drive down to Camp Hoover. I saw it on a map from 1933. This is Skyline Drive, and this is the top of the quadrangle map. Instead of pasting another piece on top of it, I just drew this up here. You park here at Milam Gap. This is mile marker 53. It's a big parking lot here. You cross the street on the Appalachian Trail, and then you make a left turn. Here's the AT heading south. You make a left turn on Mill Prong Trail and follow this. Now the current day trail heads off like this, and then crosses Mill Prong and then follows it down like this. Right here at my waypoint 0 is where the old road diverges from the new road. So I started looking around. Here's point 0, point 1, and point 2. I eventually did find this road. Then I started following it. Had pretty good luck following it. Let's see. Down to here's the fold in the mountain where the little stream was coming down. There's my waypoint 3, 4, and 5. Now between waypoint 5 and 6, I really didn't see any of the road. So I just pretty much followed where I thought it should be. When I got down here a little bit past point 6, I finally found the road again. And I followed it on down to the bottom here at Laurel Prong Trail. And then right here at this intersection, I came across and found this old benchmark here. And then I'll show you some data on the benchmark here in a minute. This little line I drew here is approximately where the entrance to Camp Hoover used to be when President Hoover was there. You follow this on down. Here's my waypoint number 8. Now again, on the old maps, this shows a road heading off this way to the east. Eventually comes over here and crosses over the Rapidan River, and over here is where the Marines actually camped out. Came down to Camp Hoover, got some pictures of that, and then I came back to my car on an existing trail. This is Mill Prong Trail. Back to my car. Now, let me show you the old map first. This is where I found the road. This is Madison 1933. Here's Skyline Drive, or proposed Skyline Drive back then. And then this dotted line is the road that I'm talking about, coming down like this. Okay. Now, also, there's some data on that benchmark I was telling you about. The elevation of the benchmark is 2,646 feet. And down here under the history section, it says it was monumented in 1929. There's a couple of other tidbits of interesting information on here. In the description, the 1935 description, it says that it's about 200 feet southwest of the south entrance to the camp. Now, that's why I drew this little line right about there, because there's about 200 feet from here to here. So that would have been the entrance coming in from the south to Camp Hoover back in the 1930s. Ended up being 5.3 miles and fairly slow going, 4 hours and 29 minutes, and a total ascent of 1093. And that was the hike for today.